This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, everyone. The Siyata D'Shmaya. I wasn't sure how this was going to happen. B'chlal, I wasn't sure how this whole topic can reasonably be presented. Baruch Hashem, we had a lot of Siyata D'Shmaya. We now move on to part 7. So I'd like to have part 7, part 8, and conclusion. Part 7 is the following question. Certainly, there is a category of war where you're fighting the enemy in order to save Jewish lives. You have terrorists who vow that if they ever had the opportunity, they would repeat what they did the first time. So you're doing it in an act of self-defense. Basically, lo hashias Yisrael miyad tsar. You know, the Rambam brings 3 categories of milchemes mitzvah. Number 1, against Amalek. Number 2, against the Sheva Amamin. And then number 3, lo hashias Yisrael miyad tsar. But what if it's a matter of none of the above? What if it's purely a matter of revenge? Is there a category of war merely to take revenge against the enemy? Do we ever see in Chumash that there was a war not to prevent the enemy from repeating, merely as an act of revenge? We do. Sarar es hamidyanim v'hikisem oisam ki tzorim heim lachem nikoim nikmas b'nei Yisrael meyes hamidyanim. The Ramban writes in Parshas Matos, Perek Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Beis, page 41, Nikoim nikmas b'nei Yisrael meyes hamidyanim achar teyasef alamecha nigzar al Moshe Rabbeinu shel yavras hayarden. It was decreed on Moshe not to cross the Yarden. Me'ever liyarden also kol mitzvos Yisrael. He did everything he could on the other side. Natzach shnei malchei Amorim gdolim. He defeated the 2 kings of Amori. V'chalak es artza menachla. He distributed the land. V'hu roi sheyas nekama b'seinei Hashem. And he is the one who's fit to bring vengeance to the enemies of Hashem. Ve'ein al Yehoshua rak mitzvahs haaretz. All that was devolved on Yehoshua were the mitzvahs of Eretz Yisrael. But Moshe Rabbeinu, he was commanded to take revenge. The war of Yehoshua was not a war of revenge, it was a war of conquering. The war of Moshe was a war of revenge. Why did Hashem give Moshe Rabbeinu the opportunity to take revenge? Shechalak lei HaKadosh Baruch Hu kavod zeh. It's a kavod to take revenge against the enemy. Sheyira v'yismach tzaddik. Why is it a kavod? Because the tzaddik rejoices ki chazon nakam. Hashem said, Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm going to bring you nachas ruach before you die. I'm going to allow you to see revenge against the enemy. So we see now from this Ramban, there's a category of milchemes nekama. Can you extrapolate based on this? Can you learn from here that what if the enemy attacks? Can there be reprisals, even if it will not prevent the enemy from doing it again? It occurred to me that from the Maral, it would seem that there is such a concept. The Maral says, if you remember going back to page 15, that the Maral says, Heichi da'asu Yisrael davar, k'goin shepartzu b'hem lasos lahem navala, afagavdo yasarak echad mehem, kivan demechlal ha'amu, mutarim likach nikmasam mehem v'hachinami kol hamulchamos. Says the Maral, sorry to burst your bubble. What's the purpose of war? The purpose of war is not to stop them from doing it again. That's not even the objective of war. The objective of war is revenge. That is the objective of war. You know, in the modern world, the objective of war is security. That's not the definition of war. The definition of war is revenge, reprisal. He says Maral, kol hamilchamos. Now maybe this is why utilizing this Maral was considered so controversial. But these are the words of the Maral, open black and white. If you look again, page 15, it says the Maral, Kivan demechlal ha'amhu, v'kivan shapartzu hem tchila, mutarim likach nikmasam, V'hachinami kol ha-milchamos kagoin sararas hamidyanim. Af agav dehoyu harbe shelo yasu. Ein ze chiluk. Kivan shahayu ba'isa uma sha'asa hara mutarim lavei aleim l'milchama. So is there a category of milchemes nekama? Maral says no. There's no category. That is milchama. That is the definition of milchama. That's my personal observation. Rav Yisraeli, who we quoted in one of the earlier sections, he's the one who, so to speak, invented the terminology of milchemes nekama. He says in his Sefer Amud Hayamini on page 42, she'ad sheloi bo ela shemiskanin lavai ein zu milchemes mitzvah hainu kisheloi bo oid b'chlal. You know, there was an opinion that if the enemy didn't come yet and it's preemptive, in other words, is a preemptive strike milchemes mitzvah? There are those who argue no, that's if they never came before. Once they've come once, that's not called a preemptive strike when you preempt them. That's called retaliation. Avalon kfar bo koidem, page 42. Ela she nisoigu. Once they've already attacked once and they retreated, umatarasam lachsar v'lavai. Yeah, the enemies on October 7th didn't say, okay, from now on, we're going to go to the shuls and we're going to sweep up and be in charge of bingo night. They pledged to do the same thing. Harehem begeder soyrei Yisrael. V'yesh v'hem din milchemes nekama shehi mitzvah l'kol yama. So is there such a category? The Ramban talks about it. The Maral defines all war that way. You have this opinion that sort of documents it. And I want to clarify one interesting point, because the Rambam does say in the Sefer HaMitzvahs that for any war to be milchemes mitzvah, even Shiva Amamin, even Amalek, even L'Hosheas Yisrael Miyatzar, you need a melech. You need a melech. Can anyone have the status of a melech today? So, it's known, there was an opinion that that's one of the very sensitive topics. What is the status of the government in the state of Israel? Without discussing whether the permissibility of it, and the question is, could they possibly have the status of a melech? So there's a famous tshuva in the Mishpatei Koyin. Rav Kook said that if they're elected in a democratic process, they represent the people, they have the status of a melech. And the wars that they wage are milchemes mitzvah. So you say, we know that not everybody agreed with that opinion. Is there any earlier sources? Absolutely. The Ramban writes it b'feirish. The Ramban, in his Hasagas on the Sefer HaMitzvahs, he says that anyone, mi sheha'am bershusai, anyone who the security of the people is in their domain, has a status of melech legabe milchama. So, again, we're not here to establish any final halachic rulings. I'm just presenting to you historical background, the sources on the issue, some of the main opinions that have been voiced. Again, it's 2,000 years. We don't have Gemaras about this subject. We don't have halachas and Shulchan Aruch. All we really have are the precedents in Torah Nevi'im and Ksuvim. And how to look at it and how to view it, obviously, there could be many different prisms and many perspectives. The clearest articulated in terms of a traditional Mefarshim is the Gur Aryeh on the story of Shechem and Dinah. So that is the conclusion of part 7.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.